Hi, and congratulations on your 2020 Nissan Murano Platinum Edition. This is luxury to the max. I know you're going to love this vehicle. That's why you bought it. There's a ton of features to go over, so let's refresh your memory on what you got. And if you still have any questions at the end of this, please don't hesitate to get in touch. Our infotainment screen here is an 8-inch touchscreen. As you can see, we've got all of our presets laid out. On AM and FM, we've got 12 presets. On satellite radio, which is free for the first 3 months, you've got up to 18 presets that you can set. If I hit my source menu here, I can see I've got AM, FM, satellite, CD, USB 1 and 2, Bluetooth, auxiliary, and you do also have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Now USB 1 and 2 are down here. They are two different USB ports. USB 1 is a Type-C USB port. If you are an Android user, you are very familiar with this. However, if you're an Apple user, you might not be. With the Apple phones, you can get a cord that has a Lightning port on one end and a Type-C port on the other end, and that will allow you to be able to charge your phone faster, and both of those ports will interact with the vehicle for Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. You do need to be tethered in for it, and I do have, Nissan has videos with how to operate both of those. So we're going to back out of here for the moment, and we're going to go into our settings, which is on the bottom right corner of the screen. To connect a phone, you're going to go into connections and then hit add new. From there, on your phone, you're going to go into your settings and then Bluetooth settings. You're going to look for My Murano, and then you're going to tap on that, and you're going to hit pair once the message pops up and you've confirmed the number on it. Once you've confirmed that, if you have an Apple phone, it's going to pop up with one message asking you to allow. If you have an Android phone, it'll pop up with 1 or 2 messages, same thing. Press allow on those. But if you have an Android phone and you have a lock screen on, you then need to back out to your main settings, go down to security settings, into smart lock, add a trusted device, and then add My Murano. If you don't do this, anytime you get into your vehicle, as soon as your phone locks, it will disconnect from the vehicle. So down here, I've got my climate control. I'm going to turn the AC off because it's not quite warm enough for it yet today. It is a dual climate control, and I can see right away I've got both temperatures there. All I got to do is turn the dial on the passenger side and they can set their own temperature. Once your passenger hops out, simply press the button and everything will go back to the driver's side setting. Now, what I recommend for most people is find a temperature that you're comfortable with. Press auto. It will automatically determine where your airflow is going and how high the fan speed is. What it's trying to do is get you to that temperature as fast as possible. So in the winter, it'll try and get you up to that. In the summer, it's going to try and get you down to that. As you get closer to that temperature, it will adjust and do what it has to just to maintain the temperature that you've got set there. If you want to manually control it, our fan speed is here, and the mode button will change where my airflow is, although for the front, it has its own separate button. If I hit any of those, it turns off the auto as we just saw there. So I'll turn auto back on. We see it goes back to where it was. My rear defrost will also activate my heated side mirrors. Now, you do have intelligent climate control on this. And the way that's going to work is in the winter, if your temperature is 3 degrees or lower outside, when you remote start your vehicle, and we'll go over that a little bit later, if the engine is cold when you do that, as long as it's 3 degrees or lower outside, regardless of what your climate control is set for here, all your airflow is going to get set up on the front windshield and the 2 front side windows using the vents on the top of the dash here. Your rear defrost is automatically going to come on, which will also activate your heated side mirrors. Your heated steering wheel, which we'll see in a few minutes, is also going to come on. And if you've left your seats in a heated position, they will come on as well and start warming up your seats. All of this happens by remote starting in the winter when it's cold. Once you get in and engage the vehicle by putting your foot on the brake and pressing the start button, your climate control goes back to whatever you had it set for, but your rear defrost, heated side mirrors, heated steering wheel all stay on, as does the heated seats if they're already on. Now, we just saw here we've got heated seats, but we also have cooled seats. There are 3 settings for each. In the center, it's off. I see no little light there. I've got low, medium, and high for heat. I've got low, medium, and high for my cooled seats. They are a beautiful quilted leather, super soft, very comfortable. And because they're quilted, they're also perforated, and that's how we get our airflow for the cooled seats. On my steering wheel on the right hand side, I've got a button here to turn on or off my cruise control. And this button here tells me I have adaptive cruise control. So we're gonna have a peek at this. I'm gonna turn on the cruise simply by pressing and releasing this button, and everything shows up there. And then up top here, I can see my distance is set for 3 car lengths plus safe distance on my adaptive cruise. Using my button here, I can press this and adjust it down to 2 or 1 or back up to 3. Just as an example, 1 car length plus safe distance while doing 100 kilometers an hour is approximately 2.5 car lengths. Now, maybe you're not comfortable with adaptive cruise and you just want normal cruise, so I'm going to turn my cruise off. And instead of just pressing and releasing, I'm going to press and hold. And everything changes. So I now have normal cruise control, not adaptive. Just be mindful that when you're in normal cruise control, you do need to monitor how close you are to the vehicle in front of you, because your vehicle will not adjust to it. Once your cruise is set, whether it's adaptive or normal, once it's on, you've got your set, resume, cancel, increase speed, decrease speed. Your controls are all here. Pretty standard for cruise control. On the left side of my wheel, on the very bottom here, I've got my volume for my radio. So on my audio system over here, we can see it's very easy to increase or decrease the volume. The source button here will bring up a list to show me what audio sources I have, and I can switch it by toggling up and down with the OK button and then simply pressing OK. So now I'm switched from satellite over to FM radio. This gives me full control of my audio, all from right here on the steering wheel, because the OK button, while I'm on radio, whether it's AM, FM, or satellite, will toggle through my presets if I tap up or down, where if I'm streaming through CD, USB, or Bluetooth, it will skip tracks by toggling up or down on this. Our shadow box right here, we're going to skip for the moment. This button here with the phone is going to allow me to answer a call or hang up. And then I have a voice recognition button up here. This will allow me to make an outbound call. Now your vehicle is equipped with a navigation system, which is super easy to set. I can just go into destination. If I know exactly where I'm going, I can do street address. If it's out of province or state, start with that. If it's still in the same province or state, but out of your city in a different area, start with that. Otherwise, just go into house or street number. If I'm only looking for a certain location, maybe I want a coffee, I can go into points of interest, hit coffee shops, and it starts with what's closest and works its way out. However, when you are driving, all of these buttons are going to gray out. It is a distraction to try and set this while you're driving. You can, however, use the voice recognition button to set your navigation while you're driving without having to pull over, strictly by voice. Just be clear in enunciating whatever you're saying. So if the address is 60 Baker Drive, I want to say 60 Baker Drive, Dartmouth, Nova Scotia for the address, and that way it picks it up nice and clearly and enters it into the system. Our shadow box here that we skipped over initially is for our driver assist display. Now we can see on this driver assist display, I've got a lot of info here. I'm currently on my home screen, which has a compass, a digital speedometer, and my radio info. And then across the top of my screen, I can see a little indicator here for blind spot indication, which we'll get to in a moment. And our blind spot indicators are on the inside of the vehicle there. I've got a clock. I have a traffic sign here that looks like a speed limit, although there's no speed set yet. You do have traffic sign recognition. So utilizing the camera up and behind the rear view mirror, as you pass by a traffic sign with the speed limit posted, it will read that and post it up there. We'll also see, as we're going through the screens here, there is another screen where it shows larger. So you'll always know what the speed limit is for wherever you're at. We've got our temperature here. Now, I mentioned earlier with the remote start, if it's 3 degrees or lower, you do get a temperature warning at that point because you're at risk of frost. Your temperature warning will show up with a little snowflake right up beside your temperature. And then we've got our cruise control indicators there. So we're going to go one screen to the right by pressing the right arrow on the shadow box here. Now I can see I've got my radio info. Now I have the source button on my steering wheel, but from this screen I can also press the OK button, and that brings up the source as well, and then I can set my audio from there. My next screen over to the right is my navigation screen. So when I have a destination set in my navigation, my car is going to disappear and I'm going to get an arrow going up to the right or left, whichever direction your next turn is. and it's going to count down the distance until that turn on the screen. As you do approach the different markers on the screen, it will talk to you through the speaker system as well. Our next screen to the right is our averages. Now, 19.6 liters per 100 kilometers is exceptionally high for this vehicle. However, we can see that it's because it's only gone 46.4 kilometers in 3 hours and 22 minutes. We've done a lot of idling in this vehicle, just doing demonstrations with different customers. So I'm going to press and hold the OK button, and that resets all of my settings there. So I've got my average fuel economy, just an average speed, a trip odometer, and total time running since reset last. Now in the very bottom in the left-hand corner, I've got my odometer. And down here, I do have a trip reset. If I press, I can see that. Trip A, trip B, and then back to my odometer. So you do have 3 trip odometers with this. Our next screen to the right is our average fuel economy, which we've just reset. Your driving aids. You have a ton of safety features on this vehicle. In the front, you have automatic emergency braking. So if you're driving along and the car in front of you slams on the brakes, inside the vehicle here, it's going to beep at you and the gas pedal is going to push back against your foot a little bit. When that happens, if you don't react fast enough, the beeping gets louder and faster, and if necessary, it will start to apply the brakes for you to help avoid or minimize an oncoming collision. Now, it doesn't seem like much to move your foot from the gas to the brake, but there is the odd occasion that you may or may not run into where everything will happen so fast that the vehicle will be on the brakes before you can. The moment your foot's on the brakes, that whole system shuts down. You're in total control of the vehicle. Forward collision warning goes with that. That's that first stage where it beeps at you as you're getting closer to something quickly. So the best example is if you're driving residentially and the car up ahead of you is turning onto a side road or into a driveway. You're doing 50, they're doing 10 around the turn. You get within range on the radar in the front of the vehicle, and you're now closing that gap. Inside your Murano, it's going to beep at you. They'll make the turn, they're out of the way, and the beeping stops, and you continue on. You have pedestrian detection as well, which works the exact same way as the automatic emergency braking, except it works a whole lot faster, and instead of starting to apply the brake, it will fully apply the brake. The reason for this is with the automatic emergency braking, the car in front of you that piled on the brakes still has some forward momentum, whereas the pedestrian who's walked out in front of you does not, and we're hoping to avoid giving them forward momentum. You have lane departure warning and lane departure intervention as well. Your lane departure warning, as you're driving along, the camera up and behind our rear view mirror that we saw is going to read the lines on either side of you, and if you start to drift out of your lane, it's going to beep at you. Now this works somewhere between 55 and 60 kilometers an hour and higher. With that, down here on our dash, we have a button that if I turn this on, and you'll see I've got some green indicators here. That's my lane departure intervention. With this is on, and this is typically a highway feature, if you're drifting out of your lane and it's beeping at you, if you don't correct it, it's going to help pull you back into your lane. So if I'm drifting to the right, it's very subtly going to tap the left brakes. I'm not even going to feel it do it, but it's going to do that to help me pull back into my lane. You have rear sonar as well. You also have rear emergency braking. So your rear sonar beeps as you're getting close to an object. The rear emergency braking, once that beeping gets so fast that it's into a steady tone, if you're still moving backwards and you're 15 kilometers an hour or less as you're backing up, about a foot away from whatever's behind you, it's going to put the brakes on very abruptly and stop. It's going to avoid hitting whatever's behind you. Now it's going to hold the brakes for about 2 seconds. After that, if your foot's not on the brake, it will release it. Our blind spot indicators, as we mentioned, are on the inside of the vehicle. They will light up and stay lit up a dull orange as long as part of a vehicle is in your blind spot. Now, when there's a vehicle in our blind spot, let's say, for example, the driver's side indicator is lit up, and I signal to go left while that's lit up. My indicator is now going to start flashing, and it will beep at me inside the Murano here. And you should hear it, providing you don't have your audio system up too loud. Rear cross traffic detection is another feature that you have. With that, if you're backing out of a parking spot and if there's anything coming at you within 2 car lengths on either side of the vehicle, inside your Murano, it's going to beep at you, and whichever side your movement is coming from, your blind spot indicators are going to flash on that side of the vehicle. Now, I'm just covering up our light indicator, so that we can force the headlights to come on, hopefully. I might not have the right indicator there. Okay, so we're going to put the wipers on intermittent, and we're going to force the lights to come on after 4 passes. So I'm cheating a little bit. I've got them up a little higher. There's my lights. With the lights on, I have high beam assist if I move my signal indicator forward. This is the green bullet that shows up down here with an A in it. So what that's telling me is when I'm on the highway and I'm driving along, I can simply push my indicator forward as long as my lights are set for auto. That green bullet's going to show up. If there is any car in front of me, whether it's driving towards me or going the same direction, my high beams will not come on. The moment there's nothing in front of me, they will come on, providing it's dark enough out. If you're into a residential area, it won't because of street lights, or if it's too early in the day, it won't come on. But the headlights do need to be on, which I have forced on with the intermittent wipers. And I've moved my signal indicator forward into the high beam position. So I'm going to push this back, high beam shuts off, and I'm going to turn my wipers back off. That is your Safety Shield 360, which you do get on the vehicle. So that's all of your safety features. Every one of those features as they occur will give you a visual indicator on this screen. We do find that you're more focused on what's going on around you than you are watching the screen. Our next screen to the right is that speed limit sign that we talked about earlier. So as you pass by a speed limit sign posted somewhere, it will display it on the dash. Now, if you're on this screen, you're going to get it in 2 spots, one above the other. The bottom one being a little bit larger, but either way, you will always have the posted speed limit showing on your dash. Next screen to the right is for our tire pressure monitoring system. Now with this, once I start to drive, all 4 wheels will appear there. It'll show me the exact pressure. If I get a low tire pressure, it's going to pop up and tell me low tire pressure. From there, it's also going to tell me which tire is low and what the exact pressure is. From there, all I got to do is go to a gas station or a service station or any air pump, go to the tire that it says needs the air and start putting air in. When it gets to the right pressure, the horn is going to beep to tell you to stop. If for some reason you continue on, you are going to hit an upper limit, at which point the horn will beep 3 times. If this happens, please stop putting air in your tire. However, we do ask that you do the same thing to your other 3 tires so that you have the same tire pressure in all 4 tires and you get even tread wear. Now, I do have another video on my YouTube channel that goes over and demonstrates this. It's about a 5-minute video. Feel free to check it out. Warnings can be reviewed on this screen. So I'm going to go back 1 screen and intentionally cause a warning. So right away, I see on my screen there, I've got a warning. I'm going to press that shadow box button to make it go away. But my yellow triangle with an exclamation mark stays right up in the corner there. Now, let's say, for example, I'm driving down the highway and I clear my windshield off and it pops up and says low wiper fluid. So I clear the warning off of that. A little while later, I'm coming up to a gas station and pulling in, and I don't remember what my triangle was there for. I can then go back to my warning screen. It tells me 1 warning to review. If I press the OK button, it shows me my warning. Now, in the example that I just gave, it would be wiper fluid. In this case, it's our door. To correct the issue, simply fix whatever it is. So if it's your door, make sure it's fully shut. If it's wiper fluid, add some fluid and so on. Our last screen over is our settings, and we're going to go into here because there's a couple things I want you to see. By default, Nissan vehicles will automatically unlock the door when you turn off the vehicle. Most people prefer to have it set so that the moment you shift into park, it unlocks. So we're going to go down to vehicle settings, locking, auto door unlock. Now, I've already done it with this vehicle, but you want to switch it from ignition off to shift to park. Press OK. Then I'm going to hit the back button here to go back a screen, and I'm going to do it again. And then I'm going to go down to wipers, and I want to turn on speed dependent. So this is for your intermittent wipers, and what this is going to do is if you're driving along residentially, you've got your intermittent wipers on, and then you loop out to the highway. You're now going faster, so the time delay on your wipers is going to shorten a little bit without you adjusting anything. So we're going to go back a screen. The last thing I want you to check is the maintenance, and then oil and filter. You want to make sure this is set for 8,000 kilometers, which is when your oil changes are due, every 8,000 kilometers or every 6 months, whichever hits first. If you do drive the 8,000 kilometers, as you hit that, it will pop up and tell you maintenance and oil filter. From there, just give the service station a call and book in. Once they change it, they'll come in here and they'll reset it. Should they forget to reset it, come to this exact spot, come down, press reset. It'll ask you to confirm, and then you're good to go. We're going to back out of our settings screen, and we're going to have a look at those couple buttons down on the side of the dash. So down here, we've got a few buttons. Some of them we've already mentioned. So we have our heated steering here. If I turn this on, it's going to stay on for approximately 30 minutes. Once it turns off, if you want it back on, simply press the button, it'll come back on, but your steering wheel will be toasty warm at that point. We have our traction control button here. This turns it off. We do recommend leaving this alone as you're driving an all-wheel drive vehicle. If I turn it off, I get some beeping and a whole lot of lights show up on the dash. So I can see down here, my traction control is off, but I also notice I've got some vehicles crashing here. I've just disabled all of my safety features by disabling the traction control. So we're going to turn that back on. My button here, if I am in park and somebody needs to get something out of the back, I can open or close the hatch with this, simply from sitting inside, pressing and holding for 2 seconds. I hear a couple beeps back there, and my hatch opens up. Once they've got what they need out of the back, I can do the exact same thing. I hear that beeping again. In my rear view mirror, I can see that the hatch is closing. And then this button here we said was our traction control. So we turn that on and we see the green lines up there beside the car. With your Murano, you have an auto dimming rear view mirror, and you can see it's got HomeLink on here. So we can set up to 3 garage door openers on this. To hook up a garage door opener, all you want to do is be parked in front of the garage door, press and hold your garage door opener, and while you're doing so, press and hold one of the buttons that you want to line up with it. It will start with a very slow flashing red light right here. Once it moves to a fast red flashing light, let go of both buttons. That means that you're already synced. From there, you can simply use the button on your mirror to open or close your garage. If for some reason this does not work, check your owner's manual, as there are 2 other methods to do this. Now you also have memory seats. So what we recommend is get your seat in the position that you're comfortable with, get your mirrors where you want them, using the adjuster here on the steering column, adjust that to where you want it, and then we're going to press set, and then whichever driver number you are, you'll hear a tone like we just did. That means driver 1 is set in this case. You're going to spend the first week adjusting your seat, because you'll keep tweaking it. As you do, every time that you change it a little bit, just hit set, and then your driver number again, and then you're good. After that, anybody else who drives your vehicle, so if it's your spouse, significant other, or your mechanic, once they're done, when you go to get back in, press your number, all your settings will go back to normal for your mirror, your steering wheel, and your seat. Now, we do have a key fob with this. On our key fob, we've got our panic button. We've got a button here to open or close the hatch, the same as we did down below here. Unlock, lock, and remote start. To work my remote start, I'm going to hit the lock button, then hold the top button for 5 seconds. It will remote start your Murano from up to 200 feet away. Once you've done this, it's going to run for up to 10 minutes. You do need to engage the vehicle when you get in by putting your foot on the brake and hitting the start button. If for some reason you're running behind, maybe you're trying to get the kids out the door and it's been running since 8 minutes, you know you're going to be at least 5 more, just do the same thing. Hit the lock, hold the top button for 5 seconds. It'll add another 10 minutes to the count from wherever you're at. So if you've been running from 8 minutes, like in the example I just gave, it'll now run to the 18-minute mark. If you try and cheat the system and remote start it and then do it again right away, you're only going to run to the 11-minute mark. If you decide you're not going anywhere, press and hold the top button for 2 seconds to turn it back off. Now, you can remote start your vehicle twice or once with an extension without ever getting in. After that, however, whichever of those scenarios you use, you do need to get in and engage the vehicle by physically turning it on to reset it so that it will work again. Now, because it's key fob, there is a battery inside, and that battery typically lasts 2 to 4 years. When your battery starts getting low, it will tell you up on the screen either low key fob battery, or you'll go to start it and it'll say incorrect key ID. If that happens, wait for the message to go away and try again. If it keeps popping up and you can't start it, take the Nissan emblem on your key fob, and while your foot's on the brake, put this directly against the start button and use this to push it in. That will start your vehicle even though the battery may be completely dead. And if your battery is dead, if you need to get into your Murano, on the back of the key fob there's a switch, and if I push this over, I can pop a key out. There is a keyhole in the driver's side door. As I mentioned, once you get in, then just put the key fob against the start button and use that to start it, and then go get a new battery. To change your battery, you can just put something flat in either of these two recessed areas and give it a little twist. Your key fob will pop apart, and inside is a battery. It looks like a watch battery, just a bit bigger. The number on your battery is your battery size. They're about $6 or $7 to buy at any big box store or any drugstore. Or for $1 or $2 more, you can take it into the Nissan dealership and they'll do it for you. They'll test your battery, make sure everything's okay, and they'll handle your key fob appropriately so that you don't have to worry about it. Once your new battery is in, it will last for another 2 to 4 years, depending on usage. I don't recommend dollar store batteries. They typically only last 3 or 4 months. Great deal, but you have to change them very often, so not necessarily worth it. In the back seat of your new Murano, you can see you've still got the same beautiful quilted seats. They are heated back here, but they are not cooled. So I'm going to turn these heaters off because they don't need to be on in the middle of June. I still have a couple USB ports down here. These are the same as the ones in front, a Type-C and a traditional one. But we see the icons above them have a battery with a lightning bolt. This means that these are strictly for charging, where the two in the front will interact with your vehicle. On the outside of my vehicle here, on the door handle, on the front, on both the driver and passenger door, I can see I've got a little button right here. We have a similar button on the hatch that I'll show you in a moment. This is for our intelligent key system. So as long as I have the key fob on me, because it's got to be within about 3 feet of the door or the button that you're at, I can simply walk up, push the button once, I hear a single beep, and that means that the door that I'm at is unlocked while the rest of the vehicle is still locked. If I push it again, I hear a second single beep, and now the entire vehicle is unlocked. Once you get where you're going and you hop out, again, as long as the key fob is on you, 1 push, 2 beeps means it's locked. Now, if for some reason you're hopping out and your key fob falls inside the vehicle, you close the door, you get out, you push the button, I hear a lot of beeping and the vehicle is still locked. Or maybe I'm getting out and I hit the lock button here and I shut the door. Again, there's a lot of beeping. Now, even though I locked it, it automatically unlocked for me. So you cannot lock your vehicle in, your key inside the vehicle. Now on the back, we do have kick motion activation for our power lift gate. Again, the key fob needs to be on you. So basically what we're doing is somewhere below the license plate here, I'm going to give a fluid in and out. I hear 3 beeps and my hatch opens up. Once that's open, I can see I've got a button up here to close it, or I can do the kick motion activation. I can use the button on my key fob or the button up inside. Now on the back here, we do have a rectangular button here that I can press to open the hatch as well, and that's also power lift activated. But my round button right here works the exact same as the buttons on the front. Now your hatch does have a memory setting to it. I've got it all the way open here. If I want it to only open this far, because maybe there's a restriction to my underground parking, I then want to press and hold. And with that tone, that means this is as far as my power lift gate is going to open going forward. Once I've changed that, if I want to put it back, I can reset it anywhere at all. Just open it to where you want it manually. Again, press and hold. There's that tone. We're fully set, and from there I just want to close it. I'm going to do the same thing I did earlier with the little kick. I get my 3 beeps to tell me to step back, and my hatch closes. Congratulations again on your 2020 Nissan Murano Platinum Edition. This is a truly amazing vehicle. I know that you're going to love it. Luxury is through the roof. The comfort is unbelievable. But if you still have any questions after going through all of this, please don't hesitate to get in touch. You can call, text, email, or stop in to O'Regan's Nissan on Baker Drive in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia, and we'll answer any question that you have. I look forward to working with you when it's time for your next vehicle.